Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions, is brought to you by Newport-Fersan, Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.
Time now for Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions. So Fersan in the Field focuses on issues and challenges that are faced by farmers out in the field, but of course, the solutions that are important in terms of helping the farmers to navigate those challenges. This morning, we are focused on something new, star virucide. I hope I've pronounced it correctly. And this is Newport-Fersan's response, or one of their responses to plant viruses that are affecting agricultural production. Joining us, Melvin Henry, Technical Manager. Good morning, Melvin. Welcome back to the show. How are you?
Good morning, Altia. I'm doing fine, alive and well.
Good to have you
on
with
us.
us.
As well.
Good. Sajae Jones is agronomist out of Zone 4. Sajae, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Altia. Good morning. I'm doing fine. I'm happy to be here this morning.
Good to have you back with us. I'm going to start with you, Melvin, because, of course, it is important for you to explain why it is that R&D is so important to your organization, and why it is that we really need to be focusing, any at all, on the viruses that affect plants and agricultural productivity generally.
Okay. So, as you are aware, Altia, Newport-Fersan would have started operations manufacturing fertilizer nearly 2 decades ago, providing what we refer to as traditional blends. Mm-hmm. But quickly thereafter, we realized that there could have been some improvement to our product offering. So we actually moved to what we call customized fertilizers. Simply put, it is providing nutrients to the plant based on soil analysis. With that said, we were always heavily invested in our farmers, and as a result of that, the technical department at Newport-Fersan was formed, giving rise to us actually providing more field advisory services. And it was actually during these years and being in the trenches, as it were, with our farmers that we realized that there were additional challenges outside of nutrition that we as a company could respond to. So they were existing and what we refer to as imminent challenges that confront our farmers. And so, as you know, we'd have started with insecticides, then quickly moved to adding fungicides to our portfolio. Nevertheless, it is a no-brainer that agriculture itself has many different moving parts that must be adequately addressed in order to have success. So we were acutely aware that there were still existing challenges, and one such challenge being plant viruses. This meant we had to do some search and research, and we found the star virucide, which we'll talk about later. Luckily for us, Altia, where we would have established working relationship with the company known as Geolife out of India, because they are the ones who produce and provide us with our superb yield enhancer known as the high yield package. So it wasn't difficult for us to find a solution or a potential solution. So the question really is, why the focus on viruses, plant viruses, and the need to have something to respond to them adequately? Now, according to the UN Food and Agricultural Organization, FAO, farmers will have to produce an estimated 70% more food by 2050. And this is because of the projected population, which by then will be standing at 9 billion strong. So you'd appreciate that if it is that we're going to feed that population based on what we're doing now, that is the projected increase that we need to have. With that said, it is also well documented that plant viruses account for an estimated $30 billion globally in terms of economic losses. And plant viruses are actually linked to 50% of the known plant diseases worldwide. So putting these 2 points in context, Altia, that formed the backdrop for us venturing on a search and the research to ensure that we were able to assist our farmers in the response to these viral problems that we have. Mm-hmm. So with that said, Newport-Fersan Technical Department engaged this potential supplier, to conduct what we call local trials. And the reason for this is that we wanted to establish for ourselves that the literature provided about the product, Star Virucide, could actually be supported practically when it is placed to test in the field. And so we started that. One would ask at this point in time, what really are plant viruses? In a nutshell, plant viruses are what we call biological agents that invades the cells or the tissues of plants, and once they do that, Altia, they normally interferes with the normal structure and function of the plant. And as a result of that, that is how a disease is produced. So a disease is really an abnormal condition where structure and function is actually become impaired. So what these organisms do, viruses do, and they are referred to as obligate intracellular viruses or pathogens. And that simply means that without them being inside the cell of an organism, the cell of the plant, they are not able to replicate, form new ones. So what they do is that they enter, they don't have a cell for themselves, so they cannot replicate without being in the cell. So they are dependent on the cell. So once they are inside the cells of the plant, what they normally do is disrupt, as I said before, the structure, how a particular cell is formed and starts to replicate. So you'll have them, you might have one particle at day one, and before the day is out, you will have thousands of particles because they are now using the plant cell and metabolism to divide and form a lot of problems. Now, just to give an example of how these viruses operate. Now, within each plant, there are tissues that transport water and nutrients. And one can imagine from the soil in the roots upwards, there are tissues that conduct like a garden hose. So let's look at a garden hose. A garden hose is used to transfer water from the source, let's say the pipe, to the garden. Now, once the virus enters the system or the cell of this tissue, it distorts. So think about the garden hose being twisted. Once it's twisted, what eventually happens is that the flow of the water to the garden from the pipe is interrupted. Either you have a reduction in flow or a complete shutoff of flow. And this then manifests itself into the garden suffering because there's not the continuous flow of required nutrients to support the different years in the plant. So this is simple, in a simple way, pretty much how viruses affect plants, invading the cells, disrupting the structure and the processes within the plant, and thereby producing symptoms.
Wow. Well, let us ask Sajae to tell us what are some of the general symptoms displayed by plants infected by a virus. Sajae?
Good morning again, Altia, and to our listeners. Well, before we get into that, we must first understand a few things. Now, depending on the virus and the host, particular symptoms will manifest. With that said, a particular plant can have more than one virus affecting it.
At the same time?
At the same time.
Yes, important.
So just like you can have a sore throat and a headache,
yes,
the plant can have more than one virus affecting it at the same time. Okay? Oh, we can look at the mosaic. The leaves may have a mosaic pattern. Now what this is a light yellowing or a dark green spot on the leaves. You can think of it as liver spots. So you see some people may have liver spots, that's what you're looking for. A liver spot like look on the leaves. You can have leaf curling. Now, one important thing to think about with the leaf curling is that if the virus is affecting the top of the leaf, then the leaf will curl upwards. And vice versa, if it's affecting the bottom, then it will curl downwards. Now, why that happens? If the virus affects the top of the leaves, then the lower part of the leaves, those tissues will continue to grow normally, and that's why you have the curling happening in that manner. Another thing is you may have leaf rolling. Now, the difference between leaf rolling and leaf curling, as you know, the leaf will curl up or down depending on where the virus affects. But with the leaf rolling now, the margins of the leaves or the edging of the leaf will roll and form a tube-like structure. So that's the difference between leaf rolling and leaf curling.
Okay.
Another symptom that may occur is shoestring. Now, when you talk about shoestring, you think about a slender thing. So that's what's going to happen to the leaf. The leaf is going to be slender. It's not going to have the edges rolling in, but it's going to be slender. So that's how you differentiate between the rolling and the shoestring. Another thing that may happen is that the stalk or the trunk of the trees may exhibit an oily or water soak look. So you can think about the liver spot again. On the tree, you'll see some water soak look on the trunk of the tree. You may have leaves becoming yellow. You'll have crinkled leaves, vein clearing or vein banding, stunted growth. And these are a few of the general symptoms that you can look out for on an infected plant.
All right. Thank you very much, Sajae. Melvin, what are some of the major plant viruses affecting agriculture? And of course, we have to focus on ornamentals as well, because we do talk about that on this program too.
Yeah. So we have, and as Sajae rightly mentioned, quite a number of plant diseases or viruses affecting and causing the diseases. And in reality, Altia, we actually must understand that despite the fact that a particular disease might be named by a particular crop. So, for example, one such is the tobacco mosaic virus, and he described well mosaic just now. The tobacco mosaic virus is not just limited to tobacco. It was the first crop that it was identified in, and it was named in such a manner. But in reality, all of our what we refer to as solanaceous crops, tomatoes, peppers, hot and sweet pepper, eggplant, being in the same family, Irish potato as well, being in the same family, are actually susceptible to tobacco mosaic virus. We also have the tomato leaf curl virus, and as the name suggests, farmers will call it jerry curl, because what happens is the shoot, the leaves of the plant, forms a curl or a twisted-like pattern. You also have the pepper leaf curl virus, your pepper mosaic virus. You'll see those patterns. You also have the squash virus, and it is very important to note that once a particular virus affects a family, so for example, something that affects watermelons most definitely will affect all the other cucurbits, the vine crops.
Like cucumbers.
Cucumbers, right. So we have the cucumber mosaic virus. And in that family as well is your squash, your zucchini, your pumpkins. We also have the Irish potato leaf roll virus. And just to pause to say that once you're having these sort of distortions out here, the net result is that the leaves, and you'll notice that a lot of these symptoms are presented in the leaves of the plant. Now, what happens is that once the leaves are compromised, then the leaves are no longer able to function properly in manufacturing food for the plant. And ultimately, it will have its impact on how well the plant flower, how well it retains flower, and if at all these flower transition to being fruits for harvest. So it's very important to note that these viruses, while they're affecting the leaves and are more pronounced in their symptoms on the foliage, they have a net result that affects the entire system of the plant, and therefore management practices must be employed if at all success is to be achieved.
All right. Hold on, Melvin, because I'm past the break, so let me just clear that. And then when we come back, you need to tell us exactly what star virucide is. But we also have, as a matter of fact, we have someone online already prepared to just tell us what the experience has been with the use of the product. But we have to clear commercials first.
Miss Betty, early blight take over my tomato. I mean, paper full of powdery mildew. What me I go do?
Clear way.
Oh, you are tell me to clear way. When you think me and your friend?
No, Mas Kelso. May I tell you to use Clearway from Newport-Fersan, Jamaica. It is a contact and systemic fungicide with protective and curative actions against a wide range of fungal diseases such as anthracnose and early blight in tomato, purple blotch in onion, late blight in potato, leaf spot in peanut, powdery mildew in pepper, and much more.
Thanks, Miss Betty. You're really my friend. Me call me Newport-Fersan rep right now. Can't forget that name there. Clearway.
Clearway. Farmers, get your supply today. Another premium product from Newport-Fersan, Jamaica Limited.
All right, so we have quite a bit to get through for the next segment of the program. I think, Celise, we're going to have to extend our conversation with them. We're already at that point. This is First-Hand in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions. We're talking about a new product, Star Virucide, and that is Newport-Fersan's response to plant viruses affecting agricultural productivity. We have with us Melvin Henry, Technical Manager, and Sajae Jones, Agronomist out of Zone 4. Now, as Melvin would have indicated earlier, they went about doing the research when they realized what was happening. As part of championing the cause of the farmers, it's not just about selling fertilizers, as he says, but finding solutions to some of the challenges that the farmers have faced. Now, we have heard from Melvin and Sajae what the general symptoms displayed by plants affected by virus, some of those symptoms are. And then Melvin was telling us about some of the major plant viruses affecting agriculture, to include ornamentals. Melvin, before we go to our first farmer, is there anything else that you want to share in terms of some of the major plant viruses?
Sure. I know that my papaya farmers would be upset if I don't make mention of the papaya ring spot virus and also the papaya mosaic virus. Now, the papaya ring spot virus is by far the most devastating virus of papaya farmers, or the main challenge that papaya farmers face worldwide. And so anything that brings some level of resolve to this issue, which would have decimated hectares of papaya fields across the world in time past, is really something that our farmers look forward to. Separate and apart from the ring spot virus that can be seen manifested on the fruits themselves, and as the name suggests, they're ring spots, and papaya farmers are familiar with these. You look at the trunk of the tree, you'll also see that liver spot-like feature that Sajae mentioned earlier. And separate and apart from those, you also have what we refer to as the papaya mosaic virus. Now, as Sajae said earlier, you have that sort of a discoloration affecting the entire leaf, and once that starts to happen, it impairs the overall function of the plant, the entire metabolism of the plant. So the plant is not able to do what it should, as it should. So you'll have reduction in flowering, and ultimately the productivity of your field is in serious is of serious concern.
All right. Thanks very much for that, Melvin. And we're going to go to our first farmer, because I know the farmers, they have some very powerful stories about the use of the new product Star Virucide. Going to start with Junior Ebanks, and Mr. Ebanks focuses on hot pepper and watermelon. Mr. Ebanks, good morning and welcome to Farm Talk. How are you?
Good morning, Althea, and your listeners, Melvin and his other agronomist there.
Right.
I'm fine.
Good to have you on with us. Mr. Ebanks, you'd have had first-hand experience with the star Virucide during the trial phases a few years ago. Can you just walk us through exactly what was happening in your hot pepper fields before the trial set up, and then tell us what transpired after and your own impression of the product?
Well, we're doing hot peppers, and as expected, we had one of the usual fears becoming a reality of the viral infestation. We had a combination of hot pepper leaf curl, pepper mosaic, tobacco mosaic viruses. Mm-hmm. And the net result was that the plants were visible and healthy, and both the productivity and the quality of the peppers were at stake. So Newport-Fersan initiated a trial where we selected a field and divided it into 2 equal parts, half which they started with the Virucide, and the other half was left untreated by our traditional treatment that we will normally use when we get infested with virus. After about a week or so, we realized that the treated area had started sending out new leaves, which were free of any viral symptoms, while the untreated area remained as was before we started. The new leaves meant that the survival of the plants were enhanced, making it possible for us to reap more and reap for a longer period of time.
Okay. And how important was that to you and your overall production? Because I would imagine that having gone through the trial, you then continued to use the product.
Well, prior to the setup of the trial, we were there were no prior to the setup of the trial, there were no major difference in terms of how many section of the field was performing. Mm-hmm. However, what we realized when we eventually started comparing the data of the treated areas versus the untreated, we were tallied our figures of one and second harvest, first and second harvest after the start of the trial. Mm-hmm. We realized a variance of 51, almost 52%. This for me was very significant.
Yes. It sounds as if you were blown away.
Yeah, very significant, and seen as a serious game changer for the industry. Because the problem with the mosaic virus in peppers is that the vectors that transmit this virus to the plants, you can't see them with your naked eyes. So they're in the field, and you can't even see them. So you can imagine you're working with something like a wind that you can't see. They're out there in the field, and you're wondering if they're going to infect it or not. But that's the risk that they pose. So we're grateful for this, and we're happy that we have this Virucide on board to assist the farmers with the control of hot peppers. That's a major problem with hot pepper production, viruses.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mr. Ebanks. Look forward to more conversation with you in the future. Take care.
Thank you.
All right. Bless you. And we're going to turn the spotlight now on the papaya ring spot disease, because we have with us Omar Ramsamugh. And Mr. Ramsamugh, I'm now aware that papaya ring spot disease caused by the papaya ring spot virus is easily the most feared issue in papaya production, as we heard from Melvin Henry a while ago. Tell us about, first of all, good morning. Welcome to the show. How you do?
Good morning. Not bad.
Good to have you.
Good morning, Mr. Henry and Mr. Jones and the listeners.
Good to have you on with us, Mr. Ramsamugh. What were your observations when the star Virucide was tried in your field?
Well, we were troubled with the ring spot virus in the papaya, and upon using the star Virucide, we saw where new leaves were being growing vertically, flowering, and the fruits coming out of the new flowering did not show any signs of rings or the ring spot virus on the trees whatsoever. And
just for reference, because I think it is important to paint a complete picture. When you have the challenge with the ring spot disease, what generally happens to your plants and to the fruit? I don't know, because remember, know that I'm not the farmer, so you're going to tell me.
Right. So when we as farmers detect the ring spot virus, we used to have to be culling the trees and discard of them, burning them away from the plot totally. So the trees show lesions on the trunks, the rings on the leaves, rings on the fruits itself. It's not marketable at all, and the entire field is taken up with this ring spot virus.
Okay. So this was a game changer for you.
Yes. Also, the plant is also stunted.
Okay. And I would imagine that this is the kind of product that you have been recommending to other farmers?
Definitely.
You sound as if you're ready with the answer before I even asked the question. You anticipated that question?
No. But it's definitely a game changer.
I tell you. All right, Mr. Ramsamugh, thank you so very much. And no doubt you will continue to engage the team from Newport-Fersan Jamaica Limited, and all the best in your production. We look forward to more conversation with you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, take care. And we have just one final farmer that we're touching base with before we get back to Melvin and Sajae. Always good to hear the farmers talking about the products and how it is that the products have worked for them, because they are the ones who are using the products out there in the field. The Newport-Fersan Jamaica Limited team coming up with the ideas, doing the research, forming the associations and alliances that will help them to bring these products to the market. And always very important for us to share those stories. And we're now going to turn the spotlight on Cosmo Stevens. Mr. Stevens, good morning. Welcome. How are you?
Good morning, Alte. I'm good. How are you?
I am great. Good to have you on. Always good when I can get the farmers to join me and have a conversation. Where exactly is your farm?
So my farm is located in St. Elizabeth, Savannah specifically. So we actually have, I would say now, a number of plots, but they are all located in the Burn Savannah area.
Okay, why Burn Savannah? Hot peppers, Scotch bonnet peppers grow very well there, it sounds like.
Well, yes, we have been having a very decent yield in terms of our hot pepper production there. Good. We recently started some pineapples as well, and we have been seeing
good
some
results
decent
too.
returns.
All right, sounds good. All right, so tell us what was happening on your Scotch bonnet pepper farm when you first had exposure to the star Virucide from Newport-Fersan, and then relate to us exactly what transpired after you used the product.
Oh, well, so to begin with, we had the one of the more, I would say, feared issues relating to our pepper crops at the time. So at that time, it was Scotch bonnet peppers. We had a little bit of leaf curling. Well, in the pepper business, effectively, when your leaves start to curl and you start to see some yellow leaves, immediately, because you won't necessarily see what is carrying these viruses, whether they're amphase, white flies, you won't see them. So what you'll see the results. So we started to see the curl, and by the time you start to see like a small part, it eventually just goes on to the rest of the field. What we realized at that time, we've always been working close with the team from Fersan, so Melvin and others. What we looked at based on the outbreak of the viral issues, we were at a point of, we were confident to just destroy that particular field at the moment.
Wow.
Because based on the extent of damage. When we looked, you were thinking of your yield would be probably about 20-30% of what you anticipated or expected. So we did. When you get in trouble, you kind of reach out to everybody. So we reached out to Fersan, and they suggested trying this Virucide product to see if it would be effective. So I know you said first to tell you what happened, so now I can go to after. When we started to use this product, so what we did, we applied it. We applied it because it's in liquid format. So we applied it a combination of through our drip system, and then we even did some spraying. Effectively, as we kind of tried to just show all of the products at the issues we were having. But after basically 2 applications of it, we were able to see a significant amount of regrowth in terms of new leaves, healthier leaves. The trees started to grow a little bigger because we were still applying our our usual nutrition, so other fertilizers and so. And the growth of the trees, I can say specifically in terms of Scotch bonnet, I feel like at that time is the biggest trees we ever had after using the product in combination with some fertilizers from Fersan.
That is
so
absolutely amazing.
Yes. So effectively, we got to some of the healthier trees that we ever had, and then the end product of that is that particular yield would have been the best we experienced for Scotch bonnet over the years.
You simply must come back and tell me more about your story and what it is that you have been up to, but I have to leave it there. Thank you so very much, Mr. Stevens, for sharing with us. I would imagine that Star Virucide is now your go-to product for these kinds of issues.
Yes, it is now our go-to product for these types of issues.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Stevens.
Yeah,
blessings.
thanks.
Take care. All right, so we're on the break. We're going to clear that, and then when we come back, we pick up on this conversation with Melvin Henry and Sajae Jones. Okay, so we're going to round out our conversation now with Melvin Henry and Sajae Jones. And this morning we're talking about Star Virucide, and it is Newport-Fersan's response to plant viruses affecting agricultural productivity. We heard from Junior Ebanks, Omar, Ramsamugh, and Cosmo Stevens about their experience with Star Virucide and how it is that it really essentially saved them from significant challenges when they had issues with viruses. But before I go to Sajae, Melvin, to find out about some of the key features of the Star Virucide, just quickly, particularly for those of us who don't know, who are not actively engaged in actual farming, but want to know, because we do a little backyard thing here and there, how are plant viruses generally spread?
Plant viruses are spread via a number of ways. And if you understand, and it is understanding how the virus itself is spread, that one can affect any sort of management. Now, the most notorious of the means or modes of transmission is actually by vector. Now, these are actually organisms that transfer or transmit pathogen, disease-causing particles. So we have insects as a transmitter. We have mites, we have nematodes, and we have also fungus that transmit viruses. The reality is that it is based on how these organisms feed and their general makeup that they are able to collect the virus from one infected plant and transfer it to another. The reality is among the insects, the major transmitters are aphids. That is the most notorious of them all. And you can find several different species of aphids with different colors. So these are the number one insects that transmit viruses. Then second in order, we have what we call the leaf hoppers. Thrips and whiteflies come thereafter. So once you have an infected plant within the field and you're not controlling adequately the existence of these pests, it simply means that based on their feeding action, moving from plant to plant, then they're able to transfer the virus that they would have picked up during feeding from the sap of the plant. We also have what we call vegetative transmission. So individuals engage in budding, grafting, cutting, zero layering. These are some of the ways that you actually have new plants from your old plants and the transmission of the virus from infected to uninfected. Mechanical transfer is also possible, and simply put, mechanical transfer is if you have a wound, a cut on the plant, which could arise from cultural practices, weeding, and you have the flow of the sap. Once that come in contact with, for example, a tool, and you move to an uninfected plant, then automatically the transfer of the sap will ensure that that virus moves from infected to uninfected plant, and it's now in the system of the plant. Seed, interestingly, Altia, is also a way by which viruses are transmitted. So if it is that you have, let's say, a papaya plant that is riddled with either papaya mosaic virus or the ring spot virus, it would be ill-advised to select seeds from those plants because ultimately the next generation has a high possibility of transferring the virus to your new field. Pollen, as we know, pollination, cross-pollination where between plants, be it in the greenhouse or open field, is also another way. Just bear in mind that once the virus enters the system of the plants, the objective of the virus is to spread throughout. So the smallest part of the plant is likely to have that viral particle. And once that transfer is made from plant to plant, then it's a possibility that you'll have that happening. And I made mention that, so we talk predominantly about what happens above ground, but we can also have virus being transmitted by soils. So some of them are, in fact, soil-borne, and they can reside and survive for some time, depending on the virus in question, on even the plant residue. So you want to ensure that when you are cleaning or preparing for a new field, you remove as much as possible
so you don't have those
of the past crop.
All right, and of course you'd recognize that I have to stop you because we're fast running out of time, and I need Sajae to just quickly. Sajae, in fact, you have a minute and a half to just share with us some of, as much as you can in the minute and a half, the traits of this particular star virucide, why it is so effective.
Okay, I'll try and condense that here. All right. So, star is a broad spectrum virucide, and that's what farmers want to hear. Yes, it's broad spectrum, meaning it's not selective to any particular virus. It has preventative and curative action, meaning that if you have the virus in your plant, then it can offer some help to that. And if you don't have it, we can always follow the saying that we grew up hearing: prevention is better than cure. Now, how it goes about this is by its active ingredient. It's plant extract consortia. What that means is that it has a combination of several plant extracts, right? Now, as it relates to its preventative function, how it goes about this is you apply it on a 10 to 15 day interval. So every 10 to 15 days you apply it, and then you have a preventative action. If it is that you are infected with the virus, then what you want to do 2 sprays first. So you're going to spray, and then 4 days prior to that, you spray again. And then after that, now you put it on the 10 to 15 day spray rotation, right? The re-entry interval is 24 hours, and the pre-harvest interval is 3 days.
Okay.
The application rate is 1 liter to 1 hectare, and it's 3 to 5 ml per gallon, or you can think of it as 2 to 3 teaspoons per gallon.
All right. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave it there. But Melvin and Sajae, clearly you're going to have to come back to me with more about star virucide. Very, very important information you have shared here this morning. And as usual, we look forward to hearing more from you. Let me just read or share some of the information in terms of the activities that you have coming up. You have a Zoom training entitled Star Virucide, a Newport-Fersan response to plant viruses affecting agriculture. That takes place at 7 p.m. and that is online. Melvin Henry, Technical Manager, and Sajae Jones, Agronomist out of Zone 4. And that is it today or tomorrow, Melvin?
The training will be tomorrow.
All right. Thank you so very much for that, gentlemen. And of course, we look forward to more conversation with you going forward. Blessings.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Let's just take a quick word from the sponsors before we wrap the show.
Fersan in the Field, Real Issues, Real Solutions was brought to you by Newport-Fersan Jamaica Limited, the first on the land.